Alright, so here we are. We're playing Neheb the Eternal, the Eldrazi version. Let's take a look at our opening hand. We have 3 lands, a planar bridge, we have Coalition Relic, a Chaos Warp, and a Fiery Confluence. I'm going to go ahead and keep this hand. Let's take a look at what our opponents are playing. We have Sidisi Brood Tyrant, usually a Reanimator style deck. We have Reese the Redeemed, usually an Elf token deck. And then finally we have Corona the False God. So as I've talked about in the past, whenever your opponent's playing a 5-color commander, you never really know what they're up to until they start unleashing their plan. I don't know if they're just using Corona for the colors, or if they actually plan to use things that synergize with Corona, things like Assault Suit. So we draw a Buried Ruin, play a Mountain, pass the turn. So turn 1, Reese the Redeemed coming into play. That is the benefit of a 1-mana commander. So we draw a Spine Rock Null. We don't have anything to do this turn, so now's a good time to play that since it'll come into play tapped. We get its Hideaway ability, so we get to look at 4 cards and put one of them face down underneath Spine Rock Null. And we can cast it for 1 if we do 7 or more damage to a single opponent. Our choices here are Repercussion and Inferno Titan. I think I'm going to go with the Inferno Titan right here. And pass our turn. Reese the Redeems hits Corona for 1. 39, 1 commander damage. And an Everflowing Chalice, kicked 1 time. So, our turn 3, play a Mountain. We're going to play our Coalition Relic, and tap to put a charge counter on it. That'll give us enough mana to cast Neheb next turn. We drew our Whisper Silk Cloak, which is really good with Neheb. It makes sure that our damage gets through, and also it makes it much harder for our opponents to kill Neheb. Rhystic Study coming down for the Sidisi opponent. Very powerful card. Reese the Redeemed coming at us. Gonna hit us for 1. We're at 39, 1 commander damage. Mentor of the Meek coming into play for the Reese opponent, and the Sidisi opponent's gonna get the draw with the Rhystic Study. Depending on what the Corona opponent does right here, we may have to use this Chaos Warp to get rid of Rhystic Study. Lotus Eye Mystic's coming into play. It's a 3/2 with Prowess, and when it enters the battlefield, return target enchantment card from your graveyard to your hand. Opponent does not have any enchantments in their graveyard, so it looks like they're just trying to get an early threat down. And Sidisi gets to draw another card, so we're going to have to take this turn off and just Chaos Warp their Rhystic Study because no one seems like they're paying for it, and the Sidisi opponent's going to draw way too many cards. So add 1 to our mana pool from the Coalition Relic, and we draw a Darksteel Plate. Should combo nicely with our Whisper Silk Cloak. So Chaos Warp on the Rhystic Study, and we'll pay the 1. And put a charge counter on Coalition Relic. Opponent gets a land off of the Chaos Warp. That's about as good as you can hope for. And tap out and pass. Oracle of Moldiah for the Sidisi opponent. So they have a Solemn Simulacrum sitting on top of their deck. It's the Masterpiece version. Very pretty looking. Oracle of Moldiah is unfortunately also very strong. Opponent activates their Thawing Glaciers. Gets a land. Twilight Drover for the Reese opponent. Chooses not to draw. So Reese going on the attack. Reese the Redeemed coming in at us, and Mentor of the Meek going to the Sidisi opponent. That's fine, they'll get us for another 1. It puts us to 38, and puts the Sidisi opponent at 38. Storm Chaser's Boon coming into play. If you guys aren't familiar with this one, it's a 4-mana enchantment. Sacrifice Storm Chaser's Boon. Creatures you control gain flying until end of turn. That's not what's interesting about it. It's a 4-mana Cascade spell that's an enchantment. And it cascaded into Demonic Tutor, so I wonder if opponent's playing a Cascade deck. Somewhere along the way I saw a deck where it was using Stormcaller's Boon to cheat in things like Restore Balance and, what's that one that makes it so you can't attack that's from Time Spiral? Anyway, they had the deck built so they could just keep recycling that ability every turn. It was pretty crazy. So add a red to our mana pool. We will play our Nykthos Shrine to Nyx, and we'll go ahead and cast our Neheb. So I absolutely love the artwork on Neheb. I feel like every red creature should just have a huge flaming spear, but that's just me. So tap out and pass. So next turn we're set up to use our Fiery Confluence. We can get a bunch of damage out of that and then generate a ton of mana on our second main phase. So Oracle of Moldiah hits 2 lands. Opponent has a Bane of Progress on top of their library. That's not great for us. Oracle of Moldiah for the Reese opponent. Gets a Mentor trigger. Chooses to draw. They had some sort of creature on top of their deck. I didn't see what it was. I think it was Jedid Ojanen, if I wasn't mistaken. And opponent has a Kurtar's Wrath sitting on top of their library. Destroy all creatures that can't be regenerated. Threshold. Instead, destroy all creatures and then make 2/1/1 white spirit tokens. So Reese goes on the attack, hits the Corona down to 35. So for us, our biggest thing is going to be getting this Darksteel Plate into play. That'll protect our Neheb from all the board wipes, and the Darksteel Plate is also immune to the Bane of Progress, which is great. Astral Slide, oh boy. So assumingly Corona is playing some sort of Astral Slide deck, since early in the game they played a ton of cycling cards. I see what's going on now. Well, hopefully opponent plays Bane of Progress, because Astral Slide is a really big problem. We draw our Flame Rift. We're going to add 1 mana to our mana pool. We're going to add 1 red from the Coalition Relic. Drop down our Buried Ruin. Right now, I could explode for a ton of damage and try to ramp a whole bunch of stuff, but I feel like Bane of Progress has to come into play against the Astral Slide, so I don't really want to run our Planar Bridge or our Whisper Silk Cloak into that. So right now, I'm just going to play the Darksteel Plate and equip it to our Neheb. We will attack the Sidisi opponent, since I'm kind of worried about them. And they're also way ahead on land count, which is the thing. Oop, and I completely missed it. Opponent has a Mystifying Maze in play. So we'll put that in the misplay category. And unfortunately, I don't know if Neheb is going to come back to play, because I did not change the zone that he went to, which is a whole thing on Magic Online. You have to select the zone it goes to, because if it goes to the command zone, it doesn't go to exile, and it doesn't come back to play. It's a big pain in the ass. Well, anyway, pass our turn. Alright, so we at least get our Neheb back into play. Unfortunately, it no longer has the Darksteel Plate on it. Opponent decides to play their Solemn Simulacrum first. Puts a land into play. Drops a Thawing Glaciers, drops a Winding Canyons. Unfortunately, no Bane of Progress, so I assume things are going to get crazy with this Astral Slide now. And Reese the Redeemed is showing a Craterhoof Behemoth on top of their deck. That's a thing. So opponent cycles a land, and Astral Slide targets one of the tokens. Opponents have Runescarred Demon and Abundance sitting on top of their libraries. Both very powerful. Opponent saying the Astral Slide is okay for now. They obviously haven't played an Astral Slide deck before, because they are miserable to face. So, Deny Reality on the Twilight Drover. So opponent has a deck that's full of Cascade and Cycling. Pretty interesting. So one of the things we can do, I'm not super excited about this, but we can use one of our burn spells, generate a ton of mana, and then use our Planar Bridge to get Ugin, and that'll get rid of the Astral Slide plus all of the other little things in play. But if we lose our Planar Bridge to the Bane of Progress, we really don't have much going on after that. So I'm not in love with that plan. The other thing we could try to do is try to draw out of it somehow. We could use our Nullspine Dragon to try to draw a new hand. Yeah, I like that idea. So we're going to empty out our hand right here. Opponent has Mystifying Maze still up, so I'm not going to attack with the Neheb. I'm simply just going to use our spells. I don't want to make Mystifying Maze active. So first we're going to Flame Rift, then we're going to Fiery Confluence, choosing 2 damage to each opponent 3 times. Then go to our second main phase. Oh wow, we're getting 30 red mana to our mana pool. That's crazy. So let's go ahead and get our mana. I'm going to use the Nullspine Rock to cast the Inferno Titan, just to pump up our damage a little bit more. We'll hit the Corona opponent, just because Astral Slide makes me real nervous and I don't really know what else their deck is doing. So next we're going to Planar Bridge, activate Planar Bridge, get Nullspine Dragon, choosing the Corona opponent, draw a million cards. Nice. So we have 15 mana. What does Emrakul cost? Emrakul costs 10 right now. So I think we Emrakul, choosing the Sidisi opponent. And then we Earthquake for 2, killing everyone else's stuff on the board. Opponent activates their Yamavaya Elder to draw and find lands. Opponent sacrifices Storm Chaser's Boon. Opponent is going to Cyclonic Rift our Planar Bridge. It is not overloaded. Little annoying, but not the end of the world. Also, they're doing it because we're about to take their turn with Emrakul, so it makes sense. Opponent gets to draw a card off the Solemn Simulacrum. Bunch of other creatures go to the graveyard. So opponent sacrificed their Storm Chaser's Boon, giving their stuff flying so that it didn't die to the Earthquake. So they still have some creatures left. And finally, we'll move the Darksteel Plate over to Emrakul. And pass our turn. We're going to pitch some of the lands. Oh, we have 12 cards in hand? Oy. Even though I don't love doing it, I just discarded all lands because the stuff in our hand is very powerful and things we want to keep. So opponent has a ton of lands and a Bane of Progress? This is awkward. What do we lose? We'll only lose the Coalition Relic if we cast Bane of Progress. Yeah, let's cast Bane of Progress. So Bane of Progress coming into play, gonna destroy artifacts and enchantments. Most importantly, the Astral Slide. And then I'm gonna play Strip Mine and Strip Mine our opponent's Mystifying Maze. And then we'll pass the turn to our opponent. So opponent had a really bad hand. Didn't have anything. They only have lands. They did play a terrain generator though, so they'll be able to make good use of it. Fertilid coming into play for our opponent. So after that Nullspine Dragon, we're down to 70 cards left in our deck. Oh, opponent plays the Kurtar's Wrath, so we're going to lose everything except the Emrakul. But after the Nullspine Dragon, we drew down to 70 cards left in our library, and the opponent who's been cycling everything is still at 76. So we definitely drew a lot of cards and got a ton of card advantage out of that Nullspine Dragon. It's a card that I've been interested in using, and I think in certain builds, I think it's actually a really good card. Any sort of like Voltron deck that's going to do a lot of damage, I think Nullspine Dragon is a really great way to draw, especially for red, which really struggles with card draw. So we lose 3 creatures, Inferno Titan, Nullspine Dragon, and our commander. Fortunately, Emrakul's still sticking in play. Oh, that's a living death for our opponent. I believe that's going to get the Emrakul. Yes, it does. But Nullspine Dragon comes back into play, and that's not great. That living death is actually really bad, because we're going to lose most of the good stuff in our hand. Actually, correction, we're going to lose all the good stuff in our hand, and hopefully draw into something not terrible. So a whole bunch of triggers on the stack, Bane of Progress. Opponent sacrifices Yamavaya Elder. Tell opponents, ouch, that living death. They got us good. We were in a really commanding position, and now we're not. Oh, Nullspine Dragon's ability is a May. So we're going to click no, since we don't want to discard our entire hand. That's amazing. I thought our hand was gone. That was going to be real bad. Woo! All right, we draw a Temple of the False God. We'll play the Temple. So I think the plan here is just cast Neheb, and then do a bunch of attacking. So we're going to attack the Corona opponent. 2 there and 1 there. So opponent's going to block. They drop down to 12. And we get 8 mana. Not bad. We could cast our Ulamog right here. Yeah, I think we cast Ulamog. What to destroy? I say the Oracle of Moldiah. Actually, yeah, Jedit Ojanen can be really strong. We'll get rid of Jedit. And then we'll make our Inferno Titan indestructible. Opponent has a splendid Reclamation, so assumingly they're playing some sort of lands deck, based on the amount of lands that they have in their hand, and the fact that they haven't really done all that much else in the game. Runescarred Demon coming into play. Opponent plays their Makokoro, Center of the Sea, and a Seedborn Muse. Oh boy, they're going to have a lot of mana. So opponent discards a bunch of lands to hand size. Elixir of Immortality for the Reese opponent. Abundance for our opponent. Anything that's not a board wipe is really good for us right now. Opponent's going to use their Alchemist Refuge, give creatures they control flash, and brings in Sidisi Brood Tyrant, which is going to mill their deck some more, and actually hit some creatures. So they're going to get some zombies. Uses Terrain Generator, going to put a land into play. Makokoro, Center of the Sea, each player is going to draw a card. We draw a mountain. Orbs of Warding, you have hexproof. Oh boy. If a creature would deal damage to you, prevent 1 of that damage. Oy. I was planning to just burn the opponent out with Red Sun Zenith, but that's going to get harder. Bituminous Blast on the Nullspine Dragon. Interestingly, it's only doing 4 damage, and Nullspine has 5 toughness. Let's see if they have a follow-up play. Opponent cascades into a cast out. That's interesting. That's actually real bad for us. Assume he goes after the Eldrazi. Yeah, for sure. Taking down the Ulamog. And opponent brings back their Astral Slide. Hopefully they don't have any more cyclers. So opponent, again, because of the Seaborn Muse and taps their lands, activates Alchemist Refuge. Silklash Spider coming into play. Has reach, and can do damage to creatures with flying. And it's going to do 2 damage and kill our Nullspine Dragon. Nullspine Dragon down. So right now we've just got our Neheb and our Inferno Titan left. And each player gets to draw another card. We draw a Ghost Quarter. Not super helpful right here. Null Rod. Activated abilities of artifacts can't be activated. That's a super pain in the ass. Ugh. Compost. Whenever a black card is put into an opponent's graveyard from anywhere, you may draw a card. Alright, so we got this Flame Break. Flame Break is going to help us out right here. Drop a mountain. Cast Flame Break. So we take down a bunch of our opponent's stuff. We're going to go to combat, shoot down the Seedborn Muse. We get 20 mana. That's good. So let's play our Gauntlet of Power, choose red, shoot the Reese opponent. I misclicked right there. So our Reese opponent did not die. Oh, and there's a Rolling Earthquake. That's perfect. That's exactly what we need. What else for our opponent? Keeper of the Keys. Opponent's going to become the Monarch, and creatures he control can't be blocked. So Reese scoops it up. So no harm, no foul on our misclick. Sidisi coming into play. Gonna mill some cards. Gets a Mystic Snake. Much better with that Mystic Snake in their graveyard, not in their hand. You, opponent? Opponent's got some damage on board. So opponent going to combat. Gonna mill more stuff. Each player draws a card. We draw, ooh, a Repercussion. Nice. So we should easily be able to end this game now. We are unable to block. And Corona goes down to our opponent's damage. So just Sidisi left. It's 20-22. So Sarkhan's Triumph not needed right now. So drop a mountain. Attack with Inferno Titan. Attack with Ulamog. Let's see if we can get rid of some of the blockers. I'm not attacking with Neheb right here just to protect Neheb because I want to get that mana boost on our second main. So Annihilator trigger going on the stack. Opponent's got Annihilate 4. So opponent's going to block the Inferno Titan. Probably doesn't realize that Ulamog doesn't have flying because I always make that mistake. So opponent goes down to 11. We become the Monarch. And we're going to try to finish it off with this Rolling Earthquake. So we get 9 mana. This time we got to make sure we click correctly. And we'll pay a few extra just in case. 14 going to our opponent. Bam! There it is. All right. So Neheb the Eternal taking down Sidisi, Reese, and Corona. Awesome.